I spoke to God one day. I went to church in my depression and, oh God, I looked really bad. I mean, you could tell it on me. And I went to church. There was a guy preaching and I said, God, you know what? This thing, I'm tired. If this is what you want from me, I need you to tell me straight. Don't do this for me. You're called to do this. And, by the time the guy finished preaching, he called me out and he said, what do you do? I said, oh, well, I sing. Okay, do you sing or you minister? I said, I do both. He said, okay, well, people who sing, they get popularity, they get, fame. People who minister, they're blessed. And there is an overflow of anointing on your life for ministry. And you will go round in circles until you answer to that calling. So I knelt down. He said, kneel down. He didn't ask me, which one do you want to be? And then he anointed me. I anoint you a minister of the gospel. After that experience, it was like something broke. I was free. And that was the day I made a decision about 2 years ago-ish that, you know what, I'm going to do this. But even after that, I protected that decision because I wanted to grow. I didn't want to rush. Oh yeah, I'm doing gospel now. Where's the mic? Let's go. Let me record. Let me tour. No. I felt like I had to go through, when you're talking about being crushed, when the process of making wine, when people go to the vineyards to look at the process, that some people actually pay to step on the grapes,
yes.
And
Crush
it's exciting for them. But the grapes are going through a lot. Exactly. So I went through the process of crushing, and also when the Bible talks about putting new wine in an old bottle is going to break away. I went through that process of the new wine still trying to fit in, and there was a lot of breakaway. I lost a lot of friends. I wasn't the same. I lost a lot of people around me. It was very painful. I was very lonely for a very long time. And but I went through it. And when it was time, I remember the first time I made that announcement. I never wanted to make an announcement because I didn't want it to be, it's not about me. It's not, Irene now does gospel headlines. And the media, they're quick to do that.
Yes.
I didn't want that. So I think the first time I spoke about it was on another TV show, a lady that I trust, Stacy. So when she called me, I was very skeptical. I kept postponing. And some way, somehow, through the conversation, it came out. I was nervous. I wanted to call her and tell her, can we cancel this interview? Because, I didn't want the attention. I just wanted to do my thing. But it came out, of course, there were blogs everywhere and people were calling me, hey, sis is here there, you don't do
You're now back to gospel.
Yeah, you are holy. Hey, so we are not holy. Sorry. So I got a lot of things like that. But for the most part, when you have gone through the process of crushing and you've gone through the process of waiting for time, because I always refer to wine. When the older the wine, the more expensive it is.
Yes.
And that process was hard for me, but I was set and ready.
So welcome to the show, Irene Logan. Thank you. You know what? It's a pleasure to have you sitting here. I'm going to take it back the first time I saw you. I think I'd moved to Ghana. No, actually, before I moved to Ghana, and I'd come, and then everybody was talking about Irene and Jane. That time I was in the UK. Irene and Jane. Oh my God, they're like the hottest girl group in Ghana. And obviously, that whole journey, you breaking up, you going solo, having a very successful solo career, as well as being in the group. Music.
Yes.
What was music always going to be the journey for you?
Well, without my influence, I think so. Yes, absolutely. But prior to me becoming full-blown in the music industry, I never really thought of myself as a musician. I could sing. I did it a lot. People knew me for it. But when anyone asked me, what do you want to be? Since I was young, I loved languages and I catch on to languages really quickly. So I used to say, I want to be a bilingual secretary because it sounded so fancy, really.
It does.
It does, yeah. And, work for the UN somewhere and translate. But music was always a part of me. And I couldn't run from it.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, here and there, I pretend to speak fluent German. And I actually sat next to a German guy on the. Oh, gut, danke. Und Sie?
Ich bin Anna.
Oh, ich bin Irene.
Oh, good.
Logan.
I'm done now.
Yeah, see? So I tried that on the flight, and throughout the guy was just going. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to say, but yeah, and a little bit of French, you know.
French.
Yeah.
How's your French accent?
Un peu. Oui.
I think my French accent is definitely better than my
Yeah,
French.
yeah.
No, it's interesting because I do feel like when we're young, we go through different. I remember at one point, like maybe sometimes in a month, I wanted to be 4 or 5 different things. But I knew I loved TV. Exactly. I didn't understand what TV was. I knew I loved the TV and I need to get inside the TV. Was it with you with singing? What was it about singing that you love so much?
It came to me naturally, and it was my go-to place for solace. But I think why I didn't see it much as a career, because growing up, nobody around me really was, you know, singing alone. I grew up with my mother, who was very famous in Liberia as a gospel singer. And when I was young, I know she used to travel a lot. And, you know, one of the places she came to was Action Chapel with Pastor Nick at the time, now Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. And he had such a influential part in our lives. But apart from that, and apart from ministering around and in churches, my mother still worked, you know, because she lost her husband very early and she was a single mom, so she had to work. So I never really saw singing or music as a thing that's going to be a career for me. So probably that's why I didn't lean more towards that thought.
Okay. And when did you realize that this could be a career for you? I know you won
Stars of the Future.
Stars of the Future, but before that, had you started thinking about career before? Because in order for you to go and enter a singing competition, you're now steering towards that. Yes. Oh, okay, I want to be, either I want to be a star, I want to be on TV, I want to be just saying. When did you start thinking,
maybe?
Well,
I used to sing a lot in school. I went to Achimota, and there were times, every time there was a huge event, Irene Logan singing, and I studied opera. So that was also another repertoire for me. And I remember one time performing, and when they called me on stage to perform, the whole school, immediately I opened my mouth, the whole school was dead quiet. And I have goosebumps. And after I sang, it was How Beautiful, was a classical piece. After I sang, the uproar was phenomenal. And I was like, oh, okay.
All this for me?
Cool.
All this for me?
All this for me. You know, I got extra show in the dining hall that week and all that. Milk did really well. But for me, that in Achimota, I started having little thoughts of probably. And then coming out of school, I used to watch American Idols. Oh boy, I never missed it. And I wanted to be on a stage so bad. So I probably was still toying with, I want to do this a lot, but I still wasn't thinking career. I was just thinking, I want to sing. Yeah.
So it's interesting because sometimes that's the purpose in us, but we don't have the idea where it's going to lead the end.
No.
So I want to just take it a little bit, you know, back before your journey to Ghana. You know, you mentioned you lost your dad at a young age.
You
were 3 months.
Yes.
That's your baby. So
you
didn't even get a chance. And obviously the Liberian War happened and so many Liberians ended up in different countries. You and your mom ended up in Ghana. And obviously you're Ghanaian almost. You've grown up here Ghana is your home for the most part. Do you consider yourself more Ghanaian, more Liberian, or more, I don't know, just a child of the world? How do you consider yourself?
I like that question, Amar, because I don't think I get asked it. You know, it was a very difficult journey because there is a whole aspect of me that was disconnected. My roots, I have a lot of cousins that I don't know, people from my father's side. And I struggled with that for a very long time. I was in a different society, a different community with different cultures, different languages, and I had to learn it. And, you know, people are not apologetic when they're judgmental.
Oh, yeah.
Or when they don't understand what you're dealing with, because probably they're also dealing with their own things. And I struggled to understand where I belonged. I had serious identity issues. But the truth is, I left Liberia when I was 7 years old, and I've been in Ghana all my life. I went back for the first time about 2 years ago for 1 week.
Wow.
So, of course, I was adopted. My mom got remarried. So I'm legally a Ghanaian. I have like the passport. Mitichi, Mikachi. If you insult me, Ghana, understand too. Maybe Eweka.
You understand.
So, Charlie. you know, but for Liberia, I never lost my accent. Like I said, I'm good with languages. So when I went to Liberia, I remember I was so passionate because I felt like, oh my God, I'm going back to my soil, you know, and I was expecting so much from it. When we landed, I was crying so much. Everyone was looking at me in the plane like, hey, what's going on?
They don't understand.
They did not scare it.
They didn't get it.
So, but that 1 week in Liberia was extremely challenging because I was very disconnected. And they kept referring to me as, oh, this Ghana girl here, you know, this girl from Ghana, you know, it's almost like, okay, so in Ghana, this Liberian girl, in Liberia, this Ghana girl, who's going to take me? Please. Hello.
You can take yourself wherever you want.
Exactly. So it was kind of, it didn't, it's probably getting into trouble, but it didn't feel like home. It didn't feel like home. Because really,
and that makes sense.
Yes,
because you left that at age 7.
And home really is where your network is, and where you feel the most yourself. You know, but I still love Liberia so much. There's a lot I want to do there. There's a lot I've done there, and my heart is very much there. So if you ask me, where do I belong? I mean, I use a Ghanaian passport. I definitely identify as an African, but most importantly, as I'm discovering myself, I realize that I'm so much more than a continent or a country, you know, because really we're citizens of the world.
Your music career,
yes,
in terms of, I said, Irene and Jane was how most people knew you from, because Stars in the Future at the time, if people don't understand, was the biggest, you know, kind of musical talent show, going on to have a hugely successful career. And then a hugely solo career. And then there was a time we didn't see Irene Logan.
Yes, exactly.
Where did Irene Logan go after, you know, where did you go? When we didn't see you for a while?
I was having a lot of inner conflict with what I really wanted to do. I had this elaborate idea of the path my life was supposed to take. And in terms of success, in terms of my network of people. And I feel like doing music also was a bit limiting because a lot of people tend to put you in a box. So I was dealing with that, but also I grew up in the church. I grew up as a church girl. My mother never misses church. Every Sunday I was in church for as far as I can remember. And even apart from going to church, we lived a very Christian lifestyle. All my singing days, what I sang was gospel. And, you know, after I won Stars of the Future, I had that conflict within me as to, okay, I used to sing at Action actually. With the choir sometimes, and I was so scared that I was going to disappoint all the people who every Sunday told me, oh, I was so blessed by your ministration. But also I had been sheltered so much. I lived in a strict home. I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music, even though I always knew them. We always find a way.
There's a way.
Always. So I wanted to break free. I wanted to experience the world my way. But I always knew that I had a calling on my life in terms of gospel, but I couldn't articulate what it was at the time. I didn't know, okay, is it a calling? What is it? I knew that when I sang, when I worshiped, it was a feeling I just couldn't explain. As against to when I decided to do secular music, I battled a lot.
Did you do secular music because you had won this big music show and that's what's expected of you? Or you were really like at the time, okay, I'm done with gospel?
Yes.
Which one was it for you?
Well, there was never a conversation about, you know, you've won and you must sing secular or gospel. There wasn't. Silently, probably they didn't expect me to say I'm singing gospel because I wasn't singing gospel on the show, you know, but it was a personal choice that I made. Of course, I did the partnership with Jane, who's now Ifia, to work together on an album and promote it. So that's how we came together. And throughout the time, I also had my, because of how I grew up, some of my hurts, my disconnects, I had a lot of behavioral patterns that were not necessarily socially acceptable too much, or people didn't really know how to take me. I was a little awkward. People misinterpreted that sometimes for, oh, she's stuck up or she feels she's this. And there were so many stories swirling around, but I was dealing with so much personally that I didn't know how to articulate. I was afraid. I didn't want to come off like, oh, feel sorry for me. This is happening, so that's why I kind of withdrew to figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. There's more to this story. This is Inspire, and I'm speaking with singer Irene Logan. We have more coming up on Inspire. Don't go anywhere. Inspire. I'm speaking with singer Irene Logan. So let's kind of delve into, I guess, is it rediscovering of self, or what was that journey like when you're, kind of like moving away? You said you took that time to figure it all out. Did you figure it all out as you wanted?
Well, I came into understanding the various elements of who I was, that I was too afraid to embrace. I had to understand that I was put here for a purpose, as we all are. And I had to be confident enough to face that purpose. So there was a lot of yo-yoing around discovering myself. And anytime I did interviews, I always say, oh, I took a break to discover myself. That was like my thing that I used to say. And watching it back now, I'm always cringing, like, discover yourself. Anyway, but, you can never fully know the different elements to who you are. You learn as you go. But where I am right now, I'm very confident and comfortable in the woman that I'm becoming. Yes.
And I know you also made a decision to right now do gospel.
Yes.
How was that news received?
For a very long time, before recently, some years back, I actually made that decision and I confided in somebody about it. And by the time I knew it, it was all over the news. People were writing articles about it. And I remember I just got scared, because what people don't understand is ministry is not a joke, and you will be judged. People already are side-eyeing, like, these fake people. It's almost like you have to prove yourself before you're accepted. And I was afraid of that. I didn't want to deal with that. So I recoiled and went back and I got a lot of backlash, because I think people in the Christian community felt like I was using that as a bait for popularity or to trend, but really it wasn't. I was really battling with something. So when this transition happened for me, and trust me, I danced around it for so long. I went through periods of serious depression to the point where I wanted to die. And it was tough, very, very tough for me. I prayed to God about it. He was the only person I talked to every day. I went into a lot of vices, smoking. I used to smoke a lot. And someone said to me, you should stop talking about the fact that you used to smoke, because people are going to judge you about that. And that's pretty interesting. But that's for another day.
No, you know what? I think it's interesting that people sometimes feel like you have to hide your mistakes.
Exactly, yes.
And by hiding it, so imagine everybody's hiding their mistakes, pretending we're all perfect. Exactly. We're not. We've all done a lot of vices.
Yes.
And I personally feel there's such a strength.
Such a strength.
In just saying, I did it.
I did it.
And God is still using me.
Exactly.
And I'm still here.
And it's part of your story. After I gave that story, I like on a daily, I speak to so many young people who are going through worse things, but so when I spoke to God one day, I went to church in my depression, and oh God, I looked really bad. I mean, you could tell it on me. And I went to church. There was a guy preaching, and I said, God, you know what? This thing, I'm tired. If this is what you want from me, I need you to tell me straight. Don't do this for me. You're called to do this. And, by the time the guy finished preaching, he called me out And he said, what do you do? I said, oh, well, I sing. He said, okay, do you sing or you minister? I said, I do both. It's like, okay, well, people who sing, they get popularity, they get, fame. People who minister, they're blessed. And there is an overflow of anointing on your life for ministry. And you would go around in circles until you answer to that calling. So I knelt down. He said, kneel down. He did ask me, which one do you want to be? And then he anointed me. I anoint you a minister of the gospel. After that experience, it was like something broke. I was free. And that was the day I made the decision about 2 years ago-ish that, you know what, I'm going to do this. But even after that, I protected that decision because I wanted to grow. I didn't want to rush. Oh yeah, I'm doing gospel now. Where's the mic? Let's go. Let me record. Let me tour. No, I felt like I had to go through, like, when you're talking about being crushed, when the process of making wine, when people go to the vineyards to look at the process, some people actually pay to step on the grapes, and
Crush
it's exciting for them. But the grapes are going through a lot. Exactly. So I went through the process of crushing, and also when the Bible talks about putting new wine in an old bottle is going to break away. I went through that process of the new wine still trying to fit in, and there was a lot of breakaway. I lost a lot of friends. I wasn't the same. I lost a lot of people around me. It was very painful. I was very lonely for a very long time. And, but I went through it. And, when it was time, I remember the first time I made that announcement. I never wanted to make an announcement because I didn't want it to be, it's not about me. It's not, Irene now does gospel headlines. And the media, they are quick to do that. Yes. I didn't want that. So I think the first time I spoke about it was on another TV show, a lady that I trust, Stacy. So when she called me, I was very skeptical. I kept postponing. And some way, somehow, through the conversation, it came out. I was nervous. I wanted to call her and tell her, can we cancel this interview? Because, I didn't want the attention. I just wanted to do my thing. But came out, of course, there were blogs everywhere, and people were calling me, hey, sis is here there, you don't do it.
You're now back to gospel.
There, you are holy. Hey, so we are not holy. Sorry. So I got a lot of things like that. But for the most part, when you have gone through the process of crushing and you've gone through the process of waiting for time, because, I always refer to wine. When the older the wine, the more expensive it is. Yes. And that process was hard for me, but I was set. And ready.
Do you feel like you are in where you want to be? And you mentioned depression earlier on. Are you free from that right now?
You know what? If I can be completely honest with you, I haven't been depressed in a long time. But however, strongholds are mental. And the enemy always tries to play on your mind every now and then. But for some reason, the way I used to be depressed, Amma, was deep. Very deep. And one day I'll talk about that. But I haven't experienced that in a very long time. I have a peace that is beautiful.
I think one of the interesting things, when you're in the public eye, your pressures are more. It's not just, forget about your own internal, pressure that you put on yourself, but you've got the pressure of those around you, your society, your media, family, or whatever. And then the pressure from the unknown world, which they may not even be putting on you, but it seems that it's there. I will say this. I remember, and I've heard this before. This was a few years back. It's like, oh, Irene is such an amazing singer, but she's not as successful as comparing you to A, B, and C. You obviously must have heard those things.
Oh, yeah. Girl.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because talent-wise is very few people can touch you, and I can say that. I mean, I heard amazing. That the voice is there. When you hear those, or you hear that, and I'm sure that was not going to go away now because you're doing gospel, and it's going to be around. People are going to compare you. How does those things, when you hear that, make you feel? And how do you not let it get to you? Yes, especially in the long term?
When you're paying attention is louder. And when you're not, it's almost non-existent. When I was paying attention, oh yeah, it was tough. And for some reason, people decided that they were going to form alliances because it's almost like if I'm for Jane, then I have to be against Irene. If I'm for Irene, I have to be against Jane. And there was no amount of explaining that was going to change it.
And the industry likes to put this one against this one. So and so versus this. Is this one and this. And I'm like, please, I don't belong to anyone. And it's almost like that's the point you need to get to.
But it's entertainment. And you have to realize that once you become a public figure, you're almost like public property. People have opinions about you and they will. You can't stop them.
Yeah.
I decided after I grew in myself, I realized that, you know what? I don't know how to say it, but it was no longer my focus. Who is better than me? Who is not better than me? Who doesn't like me? When I walk into a room, if somebody doesn't like me, I don't know. Because when I walk into a room, I walk in with so much love and positive energy. I say hi to everybody. I smile.
You do.
I want to hug. So if you are sitting there in your head, you're like, I'm sorry, it's your problem because I'm going to hug you. So when I leave, you can cry about it or whatever, but I don't sense those energies. As against back in the day, I was defensive. I expected to walk in a room and see people who didn't like me. So already when I walk in the room, I had an attitude like, try me, but right now, no. So I'm not paying attention to those things. Yes, people judge. People actually called me and said, Irene, this gospel thing, Charlie, don't do it all. Don't do gospel. And so are you now saying that because people are doing secular, they're going to hell? And one thing I said, no, okay. I don't know how people process things, but thank you, Jesus. You have to be patient and ask the Holy Spirit to speak through you. Yeah. So I say, and I want to say this, that my walk and my calling is not a reflection of what somebody else's should be. It is my path. It is my calling, and it is my cross to carry. When Jesus came to die for us, he did it alone, not because he couldn't get his disciples and talk them into, hey, you know what, guys, we're going to do this dying thing. I don't want to do it alone. There's going to be a party in heaven. But it was his cross. And each one of the disciples had roles to play, and they played their roles, and somebody was telling me, one of the young women I talked to yesterday, I had a beautiful conversation with Rosalind, and she said, Irene, I realized something, that how God used Abraham is different from how he will use me. And it's different from how he used David. So I'm not saying that, people who sing secular music, I still dance. I hear the songs play. Some of them are nice. We hear them. I'm not fake, but this is my calling. This is my purpose. I was born to perform signs and wonders in his name. That is why I'm on this earth. And I have to fulfill that purpose.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just before we end, you ventured into fashion.
Yay.
Tribasa. Tell us about that, because I think in the world, people will expect you to be this or be that.
Yeah.
And, look, there can be so many talents within us.
Exactly.
Yeah. How did Tribasa come about?
Well, I'm originally from the Bassa tribe in Liberia. So that's how the name came about. And I wanted to represent a piece of me. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've never been the girl who felt like I needed to be boxed in and known for just one thing. So I took the bold step to launch my company, which is a lifestyle brand. And I mean, why put a full stop where God put a comma? Exactly. So it's been so amazing. Like, the support has been amazing.
And finally, before we go, what advice do you have for anybody watching right now who, you've mentioned a couple of things, depression, overcoming that, also that even conflict between doing what God has called you to do, or something that is in you, but you kind of put aside. What advice do you want to give to anyone watching who's having those personal struggles?
I just want to say that it's okay. You're not alone, because there's a way of feeling like it's just happening to me. Why me? Why? You're not alone. Everyone has struggles that they're going to. It's okay to cry. It's okay to ask questions, but don't stay there. It's such a dark place to be. Reach out to somebody. I'm here. You can send me a message on Instagram, and don't compare yourself to others. You know what? A lot of people expect gospel musicians to be a certain way. There's so many expectations,
Yes.
blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, what is God's expectation? What is Christ's expectation? And that's what I want to focus on. So I just want to say you're beautiful. You are unique. You're here for a purpose. Focus on finding that purpose, and you wouldn't want to be anybody else.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I feel like we could talk on and on and on, but time is up. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
and
for
thank
having
you for
me.
sharing part of your journey with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, guys, that has been Irene Logan, singer, entrepreneur, child of God, so much more. My name is Amaka Babrise, and until next time, I will catch you soon.
Just as you know, every worthy cause needs support. And Dominion TV has been doing this for some time now, Christian-based television that seeks to power the youth with the message of Christ, take over the whole of Africa. And I believe this is a worthy cause. So if you want to support financially, or you're a brand and want to get on board, just visit the website www.dominiontv.net, or you can contact the numbers on the screen. Thank you.